So, and this gives people a chance to let them know that we're here. Make sure my chocolatey self gets a little light, because you know I'm a shadow if you put me in the dark. I'm a shadow. So
got somebody waving at you.
yeah.
Come on there. You see the Indiana zone is getting ready. Come on there, Val. What up? You see David White in there?
Yes.
How you doing, sweetheart?
Good friend. I love your post.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll touch on it, because if we're talking about it, then they're definitely going to want to talk about it. Let me know when we're ready, boss.
Coming in 1 minute.
So I love it. Hope everybody can hear us okay. We got to move the camera back a little bit. What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
I didn't know that. I haven't seen Carl, man. I haven't seen Carl. See, Dennis like that. And Dennis, their other brother. Dennis was older. I don't know if it's still now or what.
All right.
Yeah.
What's going on? Thank you for the birthday love. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black. Now, this is indeed a special episode. I have to say, it is my birthday, so this is the birthday episode. And I tell you what, all the birthday love that I have received today on Facebook and text messages and emails. Man, you guys make a sister feel loved out here, that's for sure. And I really do appreciate that. So thank you very much on this Flag Day. And listen, I know that it's 45's birthday too. I know that. You know that. I know that. But see, I use my powers for good. I use my Gemini powers for good. He uses his powers for evil, to break up people and break up communities and break up. I'm trying to bring people together. So my Gemini love that I use is about unity and bringing our state together. So thank you very much for tuning in. You guys don't know how much I appreciate every time you take an opportunity to come and check us out. There are a couple of issues I want to talk about. Hopefully today my other guests will come. We have 2 of our statewide candidates that are coming today. Of course, you see John Aguilera here, so I'm going to make sure that I give him all the time. And while we were waiting for the show to get started, we started having some conversations on some interesting topics. I think we just need to continue on some of those as well, because it was just some fun stuff that you and I were feeling. But first and foremost, I want to talk about Puerto Rico. Listen, guys, it ain't over for them yet. It's like it ain't over for Flint. It's not over. They're still struggling. A buddy of mine just came back from a cruise, and I'm not gonna call her out because I don't know if she wants everybody to know where she went, but she was on a cruise, and one of her stops was in Puerto Rico, and as their tour guide is driving around, she said San Juan is looking relatively nice, and they're getting things kind of back together in San Juan. But the tour guide explained that the rest of the island was still in dire shape. And they were explaining that, you know, the tour guide actually lost his real business. He lost his real livelihood. And so what he's doing now is driving folks around and giving them tours of the island to supplement his income. And he said, you know, people ask, well, why don't you leave? Why don't you leave? He says he can't leave because his daughter is crazy about her grandmother. And her grandmother is at a point in her life where moving her is not a good idea. See, people make it sound like it's just so easy to pick up and leave. But how do you leave an elderly lady? And he said, I'm just not going to break up that union that my daughter and her grandmother has. So, listen, you know, one of the other things she talked about was they came to a point in the tour where they saw all these shoes lined up. And somebody said, the tour guide wasn't even going to bring up the shoes. But one of the folks said, hey, what are all those shoes down there? And they said each pair of shoes represents a death since the hurricane. And each one is marked with who died and when they died. Because a lot of these deaths, as we talked about last week, are coming because there were no electricity, no water, people can't get their dialysis, a whole host of reasons why. This is an island full of brown Americans, an island full, and we still have yet to do what we are supposed to do as Americans. But we did give them some paper towels so they could sop that flood up, didn't we?
That's right.
We gave them some paper towels, and we threw those paper towels at them like they were dogs. But I get upset every time I think about that. The lack of humanity that our POTUS is showing. There was a meme out a couple of weeks ago where it showed how George Bush reacted after a natural disaster, and he was, somewhat suspect even with Katrina. There was another one where Bill Clinton is holding somebody after a natural disaster, and Barack Obama is giving hugs after a natural disaster. But this guy stands, away from people with all of his bodyguards and tosses paper towels. See, that is not who we are. But then maybe it is who we are, because if you've been paying attention, the United States is in the baby separating business now. We're in the baby separating business. We are in the business of people who are seeking asylum, or even if they're coming over illegally, separating kids from their parents and literally putting children in, they call them detainee camps, but it's jail. It's jail. We are locking children up, separating them from their families. I'm sorry, I don't know what kind of Christian nation that's supposed to be. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. So America, we got a lot of work to do, and listen, I'm going to say this. I know we want to picket and we want to march in the aisles and we want to march in the streets and we want to, rally and scream and holler, but what we need to do is make sure that we get our behinds to the polls in November and start flipping some seats both in our state house and in Congress, because the only way a lot of this stuff is going to get changed is if we actually elect people who have some humanitarian love in their heart. Pretending like we don't have to be involved in all of this and get out and be engaged in this, and we can just sit back and do our Facebook posts and march in the streets. You got to get involved. You got to help a campaign. We've got 9 districts in the state of Indiana. 5 women are running, plus Mel Hall, plus Volorsky, or not Volorsky, but Voslowski. I can never say his name. Yes, Andre Carson and William Tannous. Listen, there are 9 seats. You need to be voting for these Democrats so we can flip some seats. Because separating kids, I don't even understand how you can find that humane. And they wouldn't even do dogs. These people love their dogs more than they love humans, and I'm just having a major issue with this. But if you don't get involved now, if you don't get involved, then you kind of get what you deserve, really. And I hate to say it like that, but as long as we continue to sit on the sidelines and let everybody else dictate to us what we are going to do and how we're going to do it, we're going to mess around and have a whole generation of people in distress. It's already there. It's already happening. Get involved, people. Don't sit on the sidelines. Make it happen. All right. Those are my 2 rants for the day, and if you notice, it kind of blended together because it was in both cases we talk about brown people in America. But I got a good brown man with me today. Hey, listen, let me tell you guys, when I first met John Aguilera, it was at a house party at Zach and Christian's house, and we were sitting around a bonfire. And I had never seen him before in my life, didn't know who he was. That was because I wasn't aware. And then I got to hear his story. And then his wife's story is amazing too, but she's not on the show because she ain't running this year.
Soon enough. If I am my way.
She knows we be laughing at her. But anyway, there's nothing better than being in a space where you are the new person and everyone is embracing you and giving you information on how you can be better. And this is what John Aguilera did for me when I first met him back in 2015 at that bonfire. So I want to turn left. You guys, welcome to our show, and we're going to talk about all kind of stuff today. My very special guest, John Aguilera, who is running for state treasurer. State treasurer.
Yes, ma'am.
It's another statewide race. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. And let me just start with thanking you and wishing you a happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Facebook.
Thank you.
And I wish POTUS a happy birthday also. And it's interesting that you brought up Puerto Rico because I was just there a week and a half ago.
Oh, were
I
you?
actually, yeah, well, my wife has family there, so we went there, and exactly what you're saying is true. But even in the city, San Juan, San Jose, where we stayed, you go and you have to be careful. Half of the traffic lights don't work. You still have to be careful of hot wires and
hot wires.
Well, you've
because
got
they're still hanging.
Things that yes, oh yes. I mean, you have the greenery back because it's 10 months, but once you get out of the tourist area, it's still devastation. And as you're coming in, you see all the blue tarps over the houses, and there's devastation there. And these are American citizens,
Absolutely.
and they're being treated as second-class citizens. So it's really unfortunate, but we went to try to help family a little bit. And,
okay, that's
so it was a.
And you're in the middle of a campaign. You have a wife, a daughter, and you still found a way to help, and that's amazing.
Absolutely. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to having a nice conversation. As you mentioned, I'm a former state legislator. I served 4 terms, and been out of office actually for 12 years now. Time flies.
Time flies. But given the historical context, sir, of your election, it's important that we mention it.
Well, I am one of a handful of legislators who are of Latino heritage.
Okay.
And so I'm very proud of that, and would be the first Latino elected to a statewide office if I'm fortunate enough to do that. When I am.
There you go. Claim it, brother. Claim it. And weren't you the first Latino elected
I was
to general
one of the first.
One of the first.
And I actually created the Indiana Hispanic Commission that is currently in place in the state through legislation. And have been very active. I was a two-term county councilman up in Lake County.
Okay.
President of the Indiana Latino Institute here in Indianapolis, and have run my own private business for almost 23 years now. I worked at ArcelorMittal, and my background is like yours. I'm an IT guy.
Hey, gotta love it. Gotta love it. We can fix stuff.
That's right. Well, I've kind of given that up. That was. I got in back in the days when personal computers first got in, and traveled all over for EDS. That basically setting up district offices for General Motors in the Buick account. And it was a wonderful career. It afforded me the opportunity because I had a high income to be involved and be able to do things. And I was elected at a very early age. I was in my early 30s. And served, for almost 20 years, and decided to go back into the private sector. Right now, I work for AFSCME, and I do government affairs work, and I watch over their pension management, and watch legislation that comes through the House, and attend meetings to make sure that they're not negatively impacting public employees. And so this is a perfect fit because one of the things you do is you're over the police pension, the police pension trust. And so what I want to do is I want to bring my experience, and I want to show here in the state of Indiana that we can govern as Democrats.
Absolutely, we can govern as Democrats.
You see here it says, just join us to stop the one-party rule.
Absolutely.
And that is because we currently have no offices. And they have super majorities in the House and in the Senate. I was fortunate back when I was in that I served 3 of the 4 terms in the majority, and it makes all the difference in the world. I see Joselyn.
Yeah, I see her walking down the street.
So, we'll get a chance to meet her also.
Yes, that worked out great.
Yeah. And so I'm excited. I think we have an energized group of candidates who will show that we are diversified and that we can lead. And I'm looking forward to this campaign and being able to get the message out. We're ready to serve. We're asking for the opportunity, and we need to get back in power so that we can start to take care of some of these things,
Absolutely.
you know, with the gerrymandering.
Absolutely.
And so I'm excited.
Absolutely. And because, you know, there are a lot of things that are happening in our state that a lot of people don't necessarily understand how they definitely impact our communities. And when we don't have a seat at the table, these things are happening without us. And I've often talked about, come on in and have a sit down with us.
We're waiting for you, Jocelyn.
We're already live. That's all right.
That's all right.
That's all right. We're already live and on the air. And, you know, so before we, as she's getting settled in and getting comfortable, tell us about what the treasurer's office is and what that role is like, and tell us why you are running for this particular seat.
Well, it's one of the 5 constitutional offices, and it's the chief investment and banking officer for the state.
Okay.
And you know, you're responsible for $5 to $7 billion on a daily basis. I have been on Ways and Means, the budget writing committee for the House for 4 terms. I was the president of the Lake County Council. I have been president and CEO of a corporation, a nonprofit corporation that is based out of Indianapolis here.
Okay. And
I run my own business. So I'm going to bring systems and financial background and mentality to this, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm being inclusive, that we have diversity. You know, I looked when I was educating myself on the treasurer's office, and so I went through and I was looking at the responsibilities and the roles and everything, and I looked at the staff, and it was glaring to me that when I looked, I saw no one of any. They were all either male or female Anglos. There was no
I'm
diversity.
sorry, are you saying there were no people of color in the
not that I saw
office?
on his staff. Not that I saw at least on his webpage.
How is that possible? How can we be in a city of almost 1 million people and in a state with almost 6 million people, and there not be at least one person of color that works in the
that stood out to me because, you know, I mean, my history, my background has been one of inclusion and diversity, and, you know, I personally experienced as a legislator in my first term being disenfranchised because here I had the fastest growing community in the state with the Latino population, and I actually had my district taken away from me.
Wow.
So, you know, that was an experience.
You were gerrymandered out.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's not a coincidence that we are sitting here with supermajorities. They have set themselves up so that the legislators are picking their voters instead of vice versa. And I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to change that. We have quality individuals who are running. We have Jim Harper, who's a millennial.
Absolutely.
He's
he was on last week.
Voter rights. We have Joselyn here, African American. She's been
Educator.
An educator, and she's served on the council in Marion. And you have a Latino here. And you know from when we were involved in the chairman's race how one of the things that I was emphasizing was diversity. Well, I will say this. The party has listened to us.
Yep,
There's no question about that.
I'm sitting here because of what was being
absolutely.
said. There was a position that was created. There were 2 more positions that were created to diversify our central committee, and I am sitting here as deputy chair for engagement because of the leadership saying, "Oh, we need more diversity." Yeah. So let me bring Joselyn in because I'm excited because she just recently announced. So if you guys don't know, Joselyn Whitticker has announced that she is going to run for the 3rd and final seat, a statewide ticket, which is state auditor. She just announced June 4th, so she is still ramping up her campaign. She is still working to get it. But I wanted our listeners, because she's going to be introduced to the precinct committee people and the delegates on Saturday at our convention. So I wanted to make sure our listeners had an opportunity to know. And thank you, John, for offering to share your time with her.
We're going to spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
So, Joselyn, tell us who you are, where you come from. Give us some information about who you be.
Okay, I have no problem with that.
Now come on closer, because I want to make sure I keep you in the shot. This way. Yeah. There we go.
I have no problem with that. I was an educator for 35 years. I was a classroom teacher for 15 years, academic coach specialist for 1 year, 19 years in administration. And in administration, I was a middle school principal for 11 years, high school principal for 8 years.
High school principal? Wow.
High school. And 1 year as an assistant, and that was when I was moving from the classroom to administration.
Okay, so and oh wow, so now you just ramped up a whole bunch of questions. So tell us a little bit about what the auditor's office is and why you're actually running for this particular position.
Okay, what is the auditor's position or job? The auditor's job has twofold in itself. It is an office that has about 50 people, and as John has said, there is no diversity. When you look, that's right, when you look at the Republican Party, you will notice, do you see many of us?
Well, you got Curtis Hill.
Do you see many of us?
He got Curtis.
He led the ticket.
Yeah. I mean, listen, hey, I'm sure his mama and daddies feel like they us. And so who am I to deny him that he ain't us? He look like us.
If you notice, I said, do you see many of us?
Not many. He the only one I see.
And I did not say...
That was an educator, just in case I didn't hear the question properly, right?
And if you did not understand, I said, you do not see many of us. The reality is, we seem not to fit the mold of what the average Republican would be.
Of course.
I am a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat.
I am
very proud to be a Democrat. And the reason I'm proud to be a Democrat, I'm a fiscal conservative. And let's talk about conservatism and so on.
Okay.
Every black and Latino and poor white is a fiscal conservative. And I'm going to tell you why. Your outlay of capital will be based on what your inlay is, what comes into that household. So you have to learn to manage your money, whether it's a nuclear family with mother, father, and children, or it is a single parent family
or
extended family.
Right.
So you learn to be a fiscal conservative. I've been a manager all my life, and the reason I say that is my adult life. Because once I started teaching, I graduated from Tennessee State University, undergrad. I'm a Tiger. That's right. I'm a proud Tennessee State grad. And what makes it so important to me, I have two masters, one from Indiana State in my area, which was vocational home economics, and I had a minor in chemistry. And I taught chemistry for 2 years, and then I was bumped out because I did not have it as a major.
Wow.
And I was bumped back in the home ec. That's all right, because I am a Christian. As a Christian, I know that whatever the plan for my life is a divine gift, a blessing.
Well, wait, hold on a second. You on a roll, and I'm getting you, but my brain is going off. I'm going to need you to help those of us who already understand and those that question often. How is it that you are a scientist, because you love chemistry, and a Christian at the same time? Can you break that down for those that struggle with science and Christianity at the same time?
I struggled with it.
Okay.
In the beginning. But as I grew in my faith, and as I grew as my parents' child, I'm a third-generation educator.
Okay.
My mother and my grandmother, and I have a niece. So we have 4 generations of educators. We were a black family in Arkansas. My mother had a master's plus hours short of her PhD.
Wow.
I'm the same way. The only difference between my mother and myself is my mother was a dark-skinned black, and I am a red-bone black. And my father could have passed for white.
Oh,
and he had only an 8th grade education, but he could solve any problem that was placed before him. And it was strange because we always wondered, how did Daddy answer that, and so on. But my dad was an earthman. He was a farmer. He loved to work outside, loved to work with his hands. And understanding that, we always had, my father always challenged us to understand how something was. Now, we could not say we were not going to be Christians. Because my father had a love-hate relationship with God at times. And that came about.
Is real, man.
And that came about because of some things that had happened in his life. But he demanded that all 9 of his children have a foundation in the church. And that was very important. And he and my mother understood that we may stray, but if the foundation is there, you will come back. And in a crisis, you are always calling on God.
So, and the reason why I wanted to just to touch on it for a minute is because there's this perception that we as Democrats are not accepting of Christians. I'm sorry, we are the big tent party, but the thing about us is that we not only just love Christians, we love Muslims, we love Jews, we love atheists, we love Hindus, we love Buddhists, we love everybody. See, the Republicans will have you believe that, you know, we are the walking embodiments of the Antichrist, whatever that is. I don't even know what that is, really. But they will make you believe that as Democrats, we don't have faith and we do not have a faith to follow. Not all of us do, and not all of us follow the same faith. But at the same time, we are also scientists, and we manage to be able to balance those things. We are not all singularly walking in a row like the board. And that's what you want from your government. When we talk about diversity from a Democrat side, trust me, I'm excited that we have a young millennial running for Secretary of State, a Latino running for treasurer, and an African American woman running for auditor. But the diversity of those within yourselves, being scientists, being educators, being entrepreneurs, being an attorney, you know, that is diverse as well, because we're bringing different skill sets to these state level offices. You know, we're not all just, you know, fire and brimstone and this is the only way it can be. This is our party. This is our party. So thank you for coming on, because I love, first of all, I probably listen to you all day. I'm gonna go ahead. You know what I'm saying? Like when you a host of a show and you go, there's a better host who's on the show today. Tell me, I know that you guys probably haven't had a real chance to kind of collaborate yet because you're still new, still coming together.
Right.
But
we've been together a couple times.
John and I.
Okay, yeah. And I know Jim and you guys are also going to be working with Joe Donnelly's team, because that's also a statewide ticket. If you could, between the two of you, just kind of toss out some of the ideas that you see that you guys are going to be able to work on collectively during this campaign season.
I'll start first. I think number one, what are the key issues that affect who's your Democrats? And that's what we need to talk about. Number one, a living wage.
Come on.
Number two, public education for all children.
And not taking our public money and giving it away to parochial and private schools. Bless me.
Protecting affordable health care.
Absolutely.
That is so important. Also, the protection and the right and the security for all people. That is something that is not discussed, and it should be discussed. Because if nothing else, 2 weeks ago we were sorely tested in Noblesville.
Okay.
How close can you be? Public education, protection, safety. And if it wasn't for the teacher who stepped in, and other teachers, Parkland, who stood in the gap, more people would have been killed.
Absolutely.
We're the party that will embrace all. We also want fair elections. You know, that's all you want. That's a Democratic issue.
Let me tell you, and we were just talking about before you came in, you know, on the I have the Republican Party platform that I pulled up, because they so funny, I think. But one of their core beliefs that you can go look at on their 2018 core values. This is what they say they believe to their core. We, quote, we believe in free and fair elections. We believe strongly in the right to vote without undue burdens from the government and support continued efforts to protect the integrity of our elections, including Indiana's voter ID law. To me, that statement right there is an oxymoron. To me. Speak on it, John.
Well, you know, when I started my campaign, my campaign slogan was "Make America Nice Again." Okay, and I did so because I have seen the negativity and the way things have been handled, and I don't believe we have to govern that way.
Right.
You know,
right.
I think that we can be civil and we can govern with integrity. And, you know, I mentioned to you that my first term there, I had my district taken away from me. You know, it's one thing, and at that time, what was very interesting is that in the debate and discussion, there was so much talk about trying to be inclusive and bring the Latino community to the table, and maybe even potentially try to get a district here because there was a growing population in Indianapolis. There's a large population in Northwest Indiana. When we got off the floor and you begin the real work of negotiation stuff, that was one of the first things off the table. So, I mean, it was lip service. And you come forward and you see now that you have an environment basically where the legislators are picking who their voters are. They have it set up so that, you know, they can conduct business without us.
Absolutely.
You just read their platform to
It's
me, and
core
I'm having
beliefs. I want people to
difficulty with it
understand, but
because
I'm having
it's-
crazy difficulty with it.
It's just unbelievable
That's their
because
core belief.
that is exactly opposite of what they've done here in Marion County by taking and having only one early voting location where you have a lot of people who it's a hardship to get downtown.
And there's
And
no free
and
parking.
it takes hours potentially.
There's no free parking unless you're an employee of a business or the government downtown. There's no so you have to
They're
pay
doing
to
the
park.
same thing in Lake County in trying to reduce
The number of precincts. Yep.
It's all really a power grab, and it's unfortunate. And unfortunately, it'll probably end up having to be taken care of in the courts. But you know, we as Hoosiers are better than that, and I'm hopeful that that people are ready to listen to others who are interested in serving again, and to give us an opportunity to govern again.
So Ms. Joselyn, when you hear that Republican platform core value, what does that say to you?
I'm going to make it very simple. What it says to me, only certain people will get in and others will not.
Well, now.
And we have talked about that. That is just like the old saying of, if you are a certain denomination, you'll get into heaven. But if you are not that denomination, you will not get into heaven. What that says to me, you are excluding everybody who does not look like you or think or act like you. And I'm sorry, I had two great parents who had 9 kids who were very bright and brilliant in each one of their children. And they celebrated all of us. Of the 9, 6 of us have college degrees with at least a master's. We have a lawyer, we have an aeronautical engineer, and we have a doctor in that 3. So what is that saying?
If you give me opportunity, I'll shine.
That's right.
If you give me opportunity,
my
I'll
light will
shine.
shine for you. You will know me by my core values. So I have a problem with that platform and most of the platforms they have.
Absolutely.
Because it's a platform of non-inclusive. It's the platform that does not accept all.
So I want to hit a couple other things on this platform, because when we were talking about it earlier, I found that we got into a really great discussion, and I feel like our listeners, I think, would enjoy, because not everybody, you can always go to the GOP, Indiana Republican Party website, pull up their platform. You got to know what the other side is thinking and doing if you ever want to have a go in with all your faculties and everything you need to fight with. You can't go in there blind. You can't go into a fight and not know what they're talking about. One of the other things that got me on their platform that I find incredibly hypocritical, they say, we believe in individual liberty and freedom. We believe personal liberty and freedom of each individual is a fundamental right in our society, and that we should be free from intrusive government interferences and poor, ineffective, and unnecessary regulation. I'm going to give you guys the reason why that particular we believe in individual liberties and freedoms disturbs me, because what was RFRA? What was RFRA? What is the conversation that, and if you go down even further in the exact same platform, they talk about the types of families that they support. They believe in a strong family with a foundation of mom and dad. So the rest of y'all, I'm sorry, but individual liberties and freedoms, but you work tirelessly on a regular basis to deny people their freedoms and their liberties who don't walk in your light. And that speaks exactly, Joselyn, to what you were saying about, you know, being an individual and people being excluded. How can they have a platform? I'm going to ask you to get into a mind of, you're an educator, so I know you can get into the mind of difficult people. Get into the mind of a Republican right now who believes that individual liberties and freedoms, but putting laws in place that restrict folks like me who are gay from receiving our full-fledged American civil rights.
You do not fit into their laws. And that's what a Republican said to me about me. And
they said that out loud?
Yeah, it didn't bother me. And I am heterosexual, so I just laughed. I said, well, I'm so glad you have decided who fits in your world and who doesn't. And see, they say they are, I call them so-called Christians. Christians. But they are truly, they practice one thing at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. And at 6 o'clock, they used to ride the horses with sheets and a torch.
Come on.
That is still there. On Monday morning, they go in and they create laws that are not inclusive for all people, that separate us from each other if we allow that to occur. But they say that under the guise of what is good for America. Who left them
in charge?
In charge.
Yeah.
And who is the judge and jury for that whole attitude and that whole mentality?
See, and that's why I bring up the platform, John, because the bottom line is what they are stating on their platform are the ideals that they're going to fight for in our state house. Those are the laws and the policies that they will fight for in our state house. But when they say they are fighting for liberties and freedom, but they create, I know that you and Vanessa were like one of the first supporters of Stonewall Democrats, so I know how you feel about the LGBT community. I don't have to go into details on that. But tell me how, when you see this on their platform and you see the policies, the policies that they're pushing in our state house, what do you feel about all that?
Well, I'll give you a good example. You know, I look, I'm Mexican on my father's side. I'm Irish, English on my mother's side. And so I favor my mother's skin color, but and I look like my father. But I grew up and I learned some very interesting things at an early age, because looking at me, you wouldn't know that I'm Latino. And I remember in the 8th grade, I was a star basketball player.
Okay, come on.
And I had this pretty little Italian girl who took a liking to me, and her father just happened to be the president of the bank. His grandfather owned the bank. And I was allowed to come over the house, and actually they let me come in, and I was allowed to go into the front room, and it was just her and I. And that happened for about a week. And then the father came in one day and he asked me my name. And I said, well, I'm John Aguilera. And he said, oh, Aguilera. What is that? Is that Latino? Are you Mexican? I said, yeah. Well, he walked back out of the room, and the next day I was told I had to stay on the front porch.
Oh, God.
So that was heartbreaking to me. And you know, there's a lot of discussion of white privilege, and people who may not have been impacted by that, they don't understand, and that means a great deal in terms of opportunity. And so that has always been something that has driven me and has meant a lot to me. And it's unfortunate, you know. And I don't speak much about. I have also taught and actually taught E&L students recently at Pike, and taught in the universities. you know, you have these kids over here and you hear some of these heartbreaking stories. They come in and some of them, their parents had enough faith that sent them here because of how bad things were where they were coming from in Central America.
Right.
And I heard some of these stories, and these kids were brought here, and they had to come on their own, and they had to be housed, and this is, you know, most of this is a couple of years ago, so they were treated a little more civil, but you see what's going on now, and it's just, it's disheartening because, you know, like I said, the reason I intentionally had that slogan, Make America Nice Again, is because I see that we have lost that. There is no civility in our discussion, no compassion. And I don't believe Hoosiers agree with that.
No, I agree with you 100%, and it boggles my mind how, you know, you create this platform that espouse all these things that you stand for, but then your actions tell me something different. And see, now I'm a verbal communicator. You know, my greatest asset and sometimes my greatest detriment is this mouth. But this is how I express who I am, and so I try to make sure that my word is my bond. My wife, on the other hand, is the kind of one where you got to show me. You talk all day long, but you need to show me your actions. And so, as a person who is a speaker and a communicator, when I read what you are communicating to people and your actions are countered, first of all, I take it personally because you're messing up those of us who are speakers, right, by lying. But secondly, you are lying to the constituents, and I said it. You're lying to the constituents in the state of Indiana about who you are when you actively campaign and do things counter to what you say you are. And as citizens in the state of Indiana, Joselyn, you know, why do we continue, and I say we because we're all in this together, they vote for them, they in there, why do we continue to give people our votes who are not looking out for us? And listen, I'm not talking about just people of color. If you are a working class white person who is in a union, I'm talking about you too. Because these guys are doing everything to keep wages stagnant. They're doing everything with the repeal of common construction wage, the advent of the right to work bills, and now you can't make any more money. They're controlling that, and they're giving these tax breaks to all these big businesses. We just saw this week, and I'm segueing here, we just saw this week where they're looking at toll roads, putting toll roads on roads that we've already paid for out of tax dollars, meaning 465, 65, 70, 74. It's costing us a whole lot of money as working class people to give these tax breaks to these big businesses. Why, Joselyn, are we putting our trust as working class people in the hands of folks who are actively working against us?
I don't think we're putting our trust in them.
Okay.
I think it is very easy for us to pull a lever that says one or the other party.
Okay.
People did not understand what right to work actually meant. They thought that, and these are honest, good people. Hoosiers are the salt of the earth.
Come on, bring it.
They care about each
Indiana's
other.
own. What?
They care about what is important. But until we get out into rural communities and tell them what's exactly going on, they won't know. What would be interesting for me to know is what is the latest update on ALEC's platform. Then compare the new Republican platform. I guarantee you they are very close, if not the same.
I'm gonna Google it. You keep talking. Y'all keep talking.
You know, they've been doing that for 20 years now, at least. So you know, they're basically writing the legislation for them, and they adopt it to the states. So
yes, everything that we see in legislative that's being mandated and changed, all of that has come from ALEC.
Okay.
And ALEC stands for the American Legislative Exchange. And those are it's a very, very conservative group of people. If you remember last year before last, they had AARP on their list. The public outcry was so bad that AARP pulled their name out of it and had demanded that they be taken off the list. What the citizens of Indiana need to do is actually look at the platform. Number one, understand the devil for what it is.
What did she call him?
The devil for what it is. Number two, understand what they are trying to get you to buy into.
Okay.
And number three, understand who you are giving your money to when you buy certain products and so on. AARP was standing to lose their company. They changed and moved. Why do you think the mess with Roseanne and the comment she made, why did Disney and ABC jump out of the fire?
But see, here's my thing.
That's all about money.
Yeah, but they knew who Roseanne was when they brought Roseanne in.
That's true.
It wasn't like this was the first time she had been saying stuff out of pocket. I mean, she's been doing it for years. So what did they think they were going to be able to control? Were they going to control her? You're not going to control somebody like that.
But see, the thing is, what's the almighty thing that drives everything?
Money, money, money,
money, money. And I'm talking about that greenback.
Baby.
And once we understand what capitalism is, and I believe in capitalism, but when somebody compares a black person to an animal and not understand that that was a way of putting us down and degrading blacks, and then bring in our Muslim brothers and sisters who had no dog, just like that ape had no dog in that fight.
Come on.
And then compare them, and we're crossbreeding.
Oh, gosh.
See, that's the scientific. That's why you have to know the devil for what it is. And that scientific production was VJ. What if that scientific production was JW? And I'm talking about myself,
okay.
Joselyn Whitticker. That's why my father and mother felt it was so important that all of their children be educated. Of the 9, 6 of us have that college degree, will have that second degree and further.
Right.
The 3 who don't, it's not because they didn't have the opportunity.
Right.
That's why education for us, for all people, is so important. Look at what is happening to the immigrants and how those mothers are being placed in one place and those children are being torn from them.
Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that right before you came in. But Justin, before we go there, there's something that, as you were speaking, you were talking about education. Your education far supersedes a lot of the people who are elected in our state house, and we don't have very many women of color, and very many women, period. There's only 20% of our women are elected officials. And you are more than qualified than a lot of the men folk who run for office. Tell me, apply that to your woman. Apply that philosophy of getting your education and what that means and running as a woman. I mean, I know as an African-American woman what that means and where we're coming, but apply that to our womanhood too, because there are a lot of men out there who are still not getting it.
Let's talk about that. If you were not raised in a household where the mother was valued, the grandmother was valued, the sisters and so on, you probably will have a problem with my strong personality. And I'm not going to talk about other women. I'm going to talk about Joselyn, because I was married for 11 years. The most outstanding product was my son. And I'm very proud of him. And the reason I said that was an outstanding product, he came from 2 educated parents.
Okay.
His father was a police detective, and his mother was a teacher. His grandfather got a PhD at IU.
Come on.
Dr. Porter, and he was from Jeffersonville. The problem with him, very highly intelligent people, and he had a degree from Ball State. He was a certified public accountant. But when you start mixing drugs and alcohol, it destroys.
Yeah.
And we can say that the black community does not have a weakness for those things, but I think people have a weakness.
Yes, we do. We're chemical. We're a mesh of chemicals, and when those chemicals become imbalanced, like I know that I have addictive behavior.
All of us do.
You know, which, you know, causes my wife to go, are you going to go out again campaigning or what? I mean, and politics right now is my addiction. It used to be eating. I was 307 pounds. You know, so we all have something chemical going on, and I own it. I know who I am. I just haven't been clinically diagnosed. Y'all not going to find that in my medical records when I run for something else again.
But no,
yeah, but
all of us have addictive personalities. The thing is, do all of us have coping skills?
Absolutely.
And that's where it comes down to the point of, how do you handle that coping skills? How do you channel those things in your personality that could get you into trouble into something that will create a huge success?
Absolutely.
And part of the problem that's happening in schools today with our children is this. Number one, you don't know how to deal with a very active little boy. And see, you used to say it was little black boys, but now it's all males.
Yeah.
And that hyperactivity, part of that is what we've eaten. Part of it is not getting enough exercise. It's part of, we have a lot of young families, young mothers raising male children and having strong alpha males. I just happen to have a strong alpha female personality.
Okay.
But I was raised like that. My dad used to say on that farm, he would tell the neighbors, I'll put my 4 women folks, because I have 4 other sisters, against your boy child. He said, I guarantee you my girl will be on fire. Tomorrow, well, Saturday, when I'm introduced, my song that I'm coming out with, or stepping out on the platform, is Girl on Fire.
Come on.
By Alicia Keys.
Come on.
And the reason...
I'm sorry.
I got a hot song too. Oh, yeah.
I don't have a song, but I'm introducing the platform, so I'm excited about that.
And that is the thing.
Mark Anthony in the house.
So you got to bring that cinnamon, that Latin lover thing,
right,
but you ain't mad at you.
But see, that's the whole thing. We need to be telling our children, both male and females, how strong and how on fire they are.
Yes.
And we are not doing that with our children.
Right.
We need to be putting structure into place, giving your child everything they want.
It's not giving them boundaries.
No, it's not giving them love. Because true love is denying yourself of what's important until that gratification can be met.
Absolutely. I mean, my wife and I were talking today. I mean, again, today's my birthday, and so you always
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And we reflect on things, and my wife is incredibly curious about, you know, where I came from. She didn't get a chance to meet my parents that raised me. She met my father, but she didn't get to meet my mother. My mother had already passed away. But because she's a curious mind, she's curious about, you know, what 2 forces came together to create this thing right here, right? She's really interested in it. I said, but you know what, Maya? We may not ever figure that out, but one thing that they taught me, and this is not morbid, this is not depressing. I don't want anybody to take what I'm saying as a depressive thought. My original parents taught me something very early on, even though I didn't know what it was then. They taught me rejection. A lot of people live their lives in fear of rejection, but if you are rejected from birth, and this, please understand, I'm not like having like some depression moment. It's just an understanding. But because I understood what rejection was from early on, I just go out here and live my life. We're going to get rejected at any time. It can happen, but you might as well try anyway. Hence, I'm going to run against Brian Bosma, the Speaker of the House. The voters may reject me, but so what? I'm going to try. And that speaks to what you're talking about when it comes to love. Even though they don't even know they did it and what they created inside me, sometimes you have to denial, rejection, saying no, creates those boundaries. I was talking to my best friend today, and she said sometimes, because her daughter is brilliant, my niece Ilana is brilliant, sometimes she has to rein her in and say, wait a minute now, you're a child, you need to stay in a child's place. You know, and it's not that we don't want you to be thought-provoking as young people, but you gotta, there's rule, I mean, listen, everybody wants to be a rule breaker, but you can't be disrespectful to your elders, and they've been through what you're going through. I don't even know how I can stress that anymore. A lot of young folks get out here and they think they're new. They brand new. They ain't seen me. I'm hot. Man, please. You've been created 14 million times. You can find your originality, but what's going on in the world ain't new. setting those boundaries, understanding, you know, those roles. And I appreciate you sharing that, because as women, we have a tendency to think we have to be perfect. We have to raise our children perfect, or before we can do anything else in the world. You sitting on 18 degrees. Is this your first office that you ran for?
No.
Oh, okay. How many offices have you run for?
Well, if you start in college.
Come on now.
I was in college. I was on the student government, and I also was a part of the Tennessee Intercollegiate State, and that was all state colleges, whether they were predominantly black, HBCs, or majority.
Okay.
I was president of that for 2 years.
Okay.
Because I could understand, I could read and interpret what was necessary. That's why me running for this job and having a CPA license is not necessary.
And so, I'm going to say that again for y'all so y'all understand. We didn't just pick up any old black woman off the street to run for auditor. She has a CPA. She's educated. She's a scientist. This woman is more than qualified to run for office, and she just happens to be an African American woman. I just looked at the time. We got this time has gone really fast. So before we run out of time, there's so many more questions I would love to talk to you about. Maybe after you guys win in November, you can come back individually. John, tell us about what your campaign is working on, where people can find you, because we want people to be able to donate to your campaign, sign up to be volunteers, because you're going to be nominated Saturday. So, and any events that get going on.
Aguilera for Indiana.com, and we need volunteers. We need people to help us and support us in fundraising. We're really excited about the race. We think that we offer, as you mentioned, some new perspective, and we're looking to govern again.
And a diverse ticket.
Very diverse. And not just of race and gender, but of ideas.
Yeah. Yes. And, you know, I had a chance to serve before, and I try to govern from the middle, you know, and so that I respect everyone who is at the table. And I'm hopeful that Hoosiers are interested in us having that opportunity again, so that we can make sure that everybody has a seat at the table.
And do you have a website?
Yeah. Okay. I just mentioned it at www.aguileraforindiana.com.
And your Facebook?
John Aguilera for Indiana.
Twitter?
Aguilera, Indiana.
Okay.
I forget that one.
That's all right. Vanessa, please post all of it. I know you're still watching. Vanessa, post that for the people. Okay, I know you're just getting your campaign.
That's a strong one.
Yeah. Oh, man, listen, I'm crazy about Miss Vanessa Lopez Aguilera. She is the truth. That is a woman of color, but she's a woman of power, and she's a woman of power and a woman of substance who don't take no stuff. She's a sensitive mother. I can talk about her all day, but she's a wonderful. They're a power couple to me. When I see them, I just go, Maya. See us? See, that's us. That's me and you. Now, I know you're kidding. I'm silly. I know.
Hey, if we can't laugh, and John can tell you, that's something about my personality.
Okay.
I can make anyone laugh.
Baby, I'm
because the whole thing is we must have a sense of humor.
Absolutely.
I don't take myself so seriously that I think I know it all. Of course I know it all. That's your problem if you don't know it all.
What? You didn't know? So tell people where they can find you so they can donate to your campaign, volunteer to help you out on your campaign.
Go to the website, Joselyn for Indiana. One has the number 4 and the other is FOR.
Okay.
For Indiana.
Okay.
And that's the website. I have a Twitter account, and I'm going to be passing out cards.
All right.
So on. So that will be at the convention, and we will have some labels. I came late, but I plan to work all the way through.
It don't matter as long as you get there.
Because as what I thought that was most important about this job is that it must be held accountable.
Okay.
It must be transparent. Okay. And we must show integrity.
Oh, come on.
Because with what's happening in the country today, it causes all of us to question what's going on, and they put it under the guise of as if you do not have educated Democrats.
Come on now.
There are a lot of educated Democrats, and I tell people all the time, I am fiscally conservative, but I am socially liberal. Because if I truly say I walk by faith, then I must show my fellow man what type of person I am, and my light will shine through. That's where the humor will come. because I know everybody did not start on the same level playing field. But there is no room for that person who feels they did not start there not to get there.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole thing. We should be empowering. Democrats empower people.
Absolutely.
And build strong communities.
So when I first met Joselyn, I met her at a federation, women's federation meeting, and I'm gonna tell you, she hugged on me like she was my mother, my auntie, my grandmother. That's that sister love, that sister girl love, and we in this thing together. And I knew she was a woman of faith when I met her, but let me tell you, when you see me walk the streets, you see me walk like this. You see me walk proud in who I am. She never showed me anything but love, people. Let me explain it to you again. When she greeted me like my auntie, like my mama, like my people from down south. She never showed. So I don't know if you've not met Joselyn, you're missing out on a powerful woman. I wanted to get that because I always tell people how when I meet people, I did that earlier when John came on, and when you know people are people of faith and they embrace you and love you, they're doing it the right way. Nobody's perfect. We know that. We all are flawed on many levels, but we work every day to be better. It's like this is not a perfect union. We're working every day to make it a more perfect union. I got to make one more shout out. I got less than a minute left. Happy Pride Month, everyone. Listen, if you don't understand the importance of right, it was a great parade. The rain came through. I got a little wet. So what? My hair didn't go back. My hair didn't go back. I wasn't worried about it. This is the time to celebrate the fight for equal rights for everybody. You don't have to be gay. You don't even have to understand what it is to be trans. We don't care. Just make sure that you understand that every citizen of the state of Indiana has a right to be and exist the way they are because they pay taxes. They're citizens. You don't get to treat them differently. You don't treat them poorly. So while Republicans are trying to figure out their platform on what kind of families they choose to support and not support, they don't mind taking gay tax money. If I can figure out how to separate my auditor, if you can figure out how to, and treasurer, if you can figure out how to separate my gay tax dollars so that none of those elected officials get my gay tax money, then I'm yours for life. But in the meantime, enjoy Pride Month. I am going to be off next week. I work on my birthday, but I will not work on my anniversary because I do love staying married. So next week is my wife's anniversary, our anniversary. I'm going to make sure she gets the time and attention that she loves. So I'm going to be off. You'll get an update from me in a couple weeks. But Indiana's Own, thank you so much, John Aguilera, for joining. Joselyn Whitticker, congratulations on this ticket. I'm excited about it with Joe Donnelly and Jim Harper. We're going to shake it up, y'all. I'll see y'all Saturday at the convention. Indiana's Own, Dana Black, Turn Left, Radio Next, Office Flex. Catch y'all next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Got it in.